it's Reagan and today I am doing a recommendations video. So for the month of October I definitely wanted to do like a monthly themed recommendation video, but I didn't want to do a spooky reads because I don't know about you, but I am honestly not the biggest fan of being terrified. AKA I don't read that many scary books, so I thought instead I would make a recommendations video on something that I do love, especially in like the months of October, November, and that is magical reads. Hey! So that's right, I got a collection of books that are magical, whimsical, maybe a combination of both to kind of fill the void, if you will. If you're feeling like you want something fun and magical, maybe I'm here to help. So the very first book I'm going to show you guys is an all-time favorite, and that is The Warrior Heir by Cinda Williams-Chima. I talk a lot about her other series, the Demon King series or the Seven Realms series, which is right here on my bookshelf. But this particular series is an urban fantasy series, and it follows a character who finds out about his destiny, which is in fact he comes from a line of warriors, basically. Like, he has the ability to be a warrior, which means he is very, very good at combat. And that kind of changes his life forever. It's super cool. It's a very interesting world full of different magical clans with different magical abilities, and this particular book follows a character who's in the warrior clan. It's super cool. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Cinda Williams-Chima's writing. I have read a lot of her books, like 9 of them. This series is definitely a great place to start too if you haven't read a lot of fantasy in the past. It's a good way to like walk yourself in the little kiddie pool section. It's a great place. Recommend it. Next up we have a middle grade book. That's the first book of a series as well, and that is The Glass Sentence by S.E. Grove. This is a really, really cool fantasy adventure story. Essentially it follows a young girl who is the daughter of a map maker, but her parents go missing when she's very, very young. So she lives with her uncle who is also a map maker. Full of a family full of map makers, which is a really big deal in this society because each continent is in their own time zone. And what I mean by that is like not just like, oh hey, China's like 7 hours behind or whatever it is. It's definitely not 7 hours. More like, hey, the America continent is like set in the 1700s and Europe is set in the Dark Ages. You know what I mean? So there's like huge time leaps between each continent, and in this book they're kind of, something's happening to these timelines or shifting, which is causing a lot of issues, and it's an adventure story following our young girl who also wants to be a map maker. It's really, really cool. I really love the historical elements of this as well as the whimsical characters and creatures present in this book. I really liked it a lot, and it's definitely a lot of fun. Next up, we have the first Maggie Stiefvater book of this recommendation list, and it's a really obvious one that I felt like I really had to include, especially for a magical books recommendation video, and that is Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys. This is just a whimsical story about high school kids searching for ley lines. It's full of a lot of weird characters doing a lot of weird things, but it's so lovely and the writing style is really, really engrossing, and I really honestly feel like this is a great pickup for anyone who has yet to not read this yet. I keep bringing it up because I know there's people out there who haven't read it, and I'm telling you to read it because I'm telling you you're gonna like it, okay? And the next Maggie Stiefvater book I'm gonna recommend is the Scorpio Races by her. This is a standalone novel that she released a long time ago, and I actually read this before The Raven Boys. It's more of a whimsical story. It doesn't have a lot of magical elements. It's more that the environment in which these characters live in is magical in a weird way. It's set on this island off the coast of the UK somewhere. It's not really stated, and every couple of years or every year there's something that happens called the Scorpio Races, and what the Scorpio Races are is these horses emerge from the water. They're like beasts, right? And people capture them and then race them. It's a lot of people die during these races because these horses are wild animals and like crazy. The story itself follows a young girl who enters this race to save her family. It's really, really, really good. The strongest element of this book is definitely the atmosphere and the environment of this island. It's very mysterious and whimsical and magical and very engrossing. I liked it a lot. Next up we have probably the most magical book on this list. Well, second most magical book, you'll see. And that is Uprooted by Naomi Novak. This is just a story full of fantasy and wonder, okay? The premise of the book is there are a whole bunch of villages outlying a forest that grows and consumes and it kind of has a life of its own. It's dangerous to villagers that live in these villages. So to have protection, the villages kind of have a patron called the Dragon, and he is a wizard who lives in a tower kind of off the side of town, but he protects everyone. But he has one rule to protect everyone. Basically, every 10 years or so, he comes down and he's like, yo, I need a new servant. And there's kind of like, and he just randomly picks a young girl to be his servant. And no one really knows why, what happens, but they change in a way. And so that's kind of the premise, and our main character is picked as his servant, and that's where the story takes off. This story reminded me a lot of like a Miyazaki film. It just housed a lot of really weird and peculiar characters, had a complete story arc, had a lot of magic and magicians and like natural elements. It was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's honestly perfect to read in the upcoming seasons. If you're looking for something magical, like this is something to really consider, okay? I have a book that I read last month that I loved and I just want to talk about forever, and that is The Search for Wandla by Tony Dittilizzi. I have no idea how to say his name. It is a middle grade science fiction fantasy adventure novel following our main character Eva 9 as she wakes up and is thrust out into a world that she has never seen before. She's like literally exploring and figuring things out as she goes, like we are, and it's an amazing story about friendship and love and like finding out about one's origins. It's so great. Additionally, this book, like I've mentioned a lot, has full-page illustrations throughout the whole thing. It's really lovely. It's the first book to a trilogy. I have only read this one, but I plan on reading the next two very soon, as I love this. As you can see, you might have noticed I bought the hardcover of this book because I loved it that much, so please read it. And the last book I'm going to recommend is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the illustrated edition. So, many of you have probably read Harry Potter, but this bad boy just came out by Scholastic, and it is the entirety of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, but with full-page illustrations throughout the whole thing. It has over 100 colored illustrations. I recently just finished it. Loved it. Totally different reading experience. It was amazing. Oh my god, I can't wait for the next ones to come out. So if you haven't reread Harry Potter recently, if you haven't picked it up yet, I recommend picking up the illustrated edition. It's really cool. I'm excited to have more versions of it on my bookshelf, so yeah. Alrighty guys, those are all of the magical reads I recommend to read. Let me know down below some of your favorite magical reads because I love magical books, so I could always use more. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon with another one. Goodbye!